This Algebra Nation video will cover workbook page 130, problem square root 36, and problem square root 49.
So in Algebra Nation, in this video we're working through another factoring practice problem. So follow along and let's see if we can't figure this guy out. So it says, if x does not equal 7, which of the following shows the expression below in simplest form? So what we have to do is take this and divide it so that it looks like one of our answer choices. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, can we factor the numerator? The denominator can't be factored at all. X minus 7, I can't factor that. If you know a way, then please tell me. But we can realize that x minus 7 cannot be factored. But what about 2x squared minus 98? Well, I'm going to try to see if I can't factor 2x squared minus 98. So I have 2x squared minus 98. So what I have to ask myself is, do each one of those two terms, 2x squared and negative 98, do they share a common factor? Well, what I can realize is that, yes, they do. They share 2 as a factor. So can I factor out a 2? Well, I sure hope so. I'm going to factor out a 2, and what I'm left with is x squared. Then I can take 98 divided by 2, and I get 49. So instead of 98, I'm going to have minus 49. Do not forget to have that subtraction there because it's still being subtracted. And what I can then realize is that this is now the difference of perfect squares. This is x squared. This term, 49, is 7 squared. So this is the difference of perfect squares. So how do we factor the difference of perfect squares? I'm going to keep my 2 out in front. I know that I'm going to have my first squared term, which is x, plus my second squared term, which is 7. Remember, I'm taking 7 squared is the same thing as 49. So it's going to be x plus 7, and then x minus 7. Okay, so remember, this is now my factored form of my numerator. So I'm just going to rewrite my numerator as 2 times x plus 7 times x minus 7 over x minus 7. So this is now my entire thing that I'm dividing, my entire expression. And what I can see is that x minus 7 and x minus 7 are going to cancel out. So I'm just left with 2 times x plus 7. So 2 times x plus 7 is my final answer. That is answer choice A. All right. If you have any questions about...
If you have any questions on the problem, see the crazy math teacher. If not, enjoy this brain break. This is what happens to people who don't pass the algebra EOC. They go insane. Hope that doesn't happen to you. BRB. And now, for problem number 7.
Going and doing more factoring. So in this video, we're working through a factoring practice problem. So let's go ahead and follow along and see if we can't figure out what the quotient of the following expression is. What is the expression? Well, we see that two things are being divided, two different polynomials, polynomial and a binomial. We have x squared plus 3x minus 40 divided by x plus 8. Now I kind of look and I say, well, I can't really divide anything right now in the way that it is currently. But what I have to ask myself is, can I factor the numerator right there? Can I factor x squared plus 3x minus 40? Well, I don't know. Let's find out. So what we can do is say, okay, x squared plus 3x minus 40, can this be factored? Well, remember, when we factor something that has a 1 as a coefficient on my x term, I'm going to find two numbers that multiply to be negative 40 and add to be 3. Remember, multiply to be negative 40, add to be 3. So then I'm going to write out what my different factor pairs are for negative 40. Well, I'd have 40 times 1. Nope, that's not going to get me 3. What about 2 times 20? Nope, that's not going to get me 3 either. What about 3? Does 3 go into 40? No, it doesn't. What about 4? 4 times 10? Nope, that's still not going to give me 3. And remember, this entire time, I have to keep in mind that one of them is going to be negative, because when they multiply by each other, they have to be a negative 40. So I know that one of my two terms is going to have to be a negative. So remember, I'm looking for either a sum or a difference of these two that's going to give me 3 right there. What about 5? Well, we've got 5 times 8. So 5 times 8 gives me 40. Okay, that's good. But then now, is there a way that I can assign a negative to one of these two numbers so that they add up to be 3? Well, yeah, if I put it as a -5, I now have my two numbers. So I've now got my two numbers that multiply to be -40, 8 times -5, and they add up to be 3, which is my middle term. That's exactly what I want. So then now when I just have that 1 out in front, I know that I'm just going to have x, and then my two numbers are those two numbers that I just found. So this is when I have a 1 or just nothing out in front of my x squared term. I'm going to have x plus 8 and x minus 5. X plus 8 and x minus 5. So now what I've done is rewritten, or I've factored the numerator for my expression. So now my numerator I know is going to be x plus 8 times x minus 5 divided by x plus 8. And then now, is there anything that I can divide here? Well, if I've got x plus 8 in the numerator and x plus 8 in the denominator, those two can cancel out. So then now what am I left with? Well, the only thing that I'm left with now is x minus 5. So I know that this is equal to just x minus 5, and that's my final answer right there, x minus 5. That is my factored quotient of this expression. All right? If you have any questions about that, make sure to post on the wall. Or if you've got a slightly easier way or a different